Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud. I gotta say it twice with Fannie Lou. I'm back and I'm proud. Hey y'all, I want to celebrate my fellow Mississippian here, Mississippian native, and that is Miss Fannie Lou Hamer there in a white hat in the middle. I did not learn about Fannie Lou, and shame on Mississippi School District for not teaching us about Fannie Lou Hamer, who was a trailblazer for women as well as the black community. And rural Mississippi at that. She was a trailblazer for that area, and I'm gonna speak more how she came together for fundraising and getting farms and economic stability in that area of the Mississippi Delta. But shame on the schools of Mississippi for not singing this woman's praises. And I get it. You wanted to hide your foolery, which ironically enough, it seems like you're about to go back to by trying to penalize illegal immigrants and trying to make them slaves for the rest of their lives. You still have not learned from your institutional racism of the 18 and early 1900s is actually heartbreaking. Now, as a girl from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, I was told that the coast is a different state than the rest of Mississippi, and that is very, very true, because then I lived in Jackson, I lived in Hattiesburg, and baby, once you go north of Hattiesburg, it's a whole nother, you see that Jim Crow shadow, you feel it. And I'm not playing. I worked in state government for 4 years, and we had a cultural competency clubs where we went to lunch with someone of a different race. I went with this very sweet woman. I think her name was Debbie. Anyway, and then black woman, white woman, we go to a Mexican restaurant. Anyways, I digress because Mississippi is really turning my stomach with that law of trying to imprison illegal immigrants for the rest of their lives, which is going to turn them to institutional slavery, free slave labor. And that's just absolutely disgusting, Mississippi. But I don't know why I claim this state, Jesus. But I digress to Miss Fannie Lou, who I am super excited about. I had to do her on the last day of February because this is a woman after my own heart. I don't have too many people I look up to, but baby, I look up to her. Now, Miss Fannie Lou Hamer was one of the most important, passionate, and powerful voices in the civil rights movement and a leader for greater economic opportunities among African Americans and those in rural area. She paid a price, however, with being severely beaten, disenfranchised. She lost her daughter because no Mississippi hospital would treat a daughter of Miss Fannie Lou Hamer. Her friend's house was shot up 16 times by the Klan, so people really didn't want to associate with her or have her around, unless you were brave. And she told Ebony Magazine, I think it was, Documental Magazine, this was on, in the 70s, she said, "Why would I leave Rouville and why should I leave Mississippi? Since if you run away from your problems, you'll never face them." So she was a big proponent of, we're going to fight the power. That song just popped up in my head. So Miss Hamer, she was born on October 6, 1917 in Montgomery County, Mississippi, in the Delta. And she was the 20th and last child of sharecroppers Lou Ella and James Townsend. She grew up in poverty, and at the age of 6, she joined her family picking cotton, and by 12, she left school to work as a sharecropper full time. By 1944, she married Perry Hamer, and the couple was sharecroppers on a Mississippi plantation. And Hamer was the only one who could read or write, so she was the plantation's timekeeper. In 1961, Hamer went to the doctor to remove a uterine tumor, but she received what's called the Mississippi appendectomy, baby, removing the appendix. Yeah, I can't talk. Anyways, it was what it was called when surgeons there would automatically just sterilize women, removing their ovaries and uteruses, giving them basically a hysterectomy so they couldn't have children. So this woman who was married, never had kids, went to go get a tumor removed from her uterus, and they castrated her basically. So she couldn't have children of her own, but she did adopt 2 daughters, her and her husband. Now that summer, Ms. Hamer went to a meeting held by James Foreman, a SNCC activist, and also by James Bevel, and who was part of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. She had never heard that Black people could register to vote, and she was 45 at this time. So Hamer became a SNCC organizer, and on August 30th, 1962, she led 17 volunteers to register to vote at an Indianola, Mississippi courthouse the next day. She was denied, and they had to take some little Mississippi constitutional test, which was really an insult. She failed the test, but she said that she would return until she passed. And at that time, it was very dangerous in Mississippi to register to vote because they would pass on your name to clansmen who would terrorize you and your family. Now, on the way home, the group was stopped and their bus was fined $400. However, and they said they would stop because the bus was too yellow. So they fined them $100. People didn't have $100. They talked them down to $30, and that's what they gave the people. And they went home. Miss Hamer, she came to Ruleville, Mississippi, and Miss Hamer came to the plantation in Sunflower County where she worked as a sharecropper, and the owner was like, I heard you registered to vote. So they had called him already and kicked her off the land, and she moved her family to Ruleville, Mississippi. But first, her husband could not leave until harvest season was over. Now, a former SNCC organizer, Dora Charette, said to the Time magazine that Miss Hamer came to the Baptist church and said that she had been ordered off the plantation. We sang freedom songs together. Somebody played on the piano, and Miss Hamer stayed strong. And she said in her authoritative voice that they kicked me off the plantation. They set me free. I said, it's to the best that it could happen. Now I can work for my people fully. So here's a picture of Miss Hamer, and it's someone named Chuck Delbit, and they're leading a group of volunteers about the Freedom Summer for 1964. She's in the upper right-hand corner. Miss Hamer said that she guessed if she had any sense, she would be a little scared, but at that point, what was the point of being scared? The only thing whites could do was kill her, and it seemed like they had been trying to do that all her life. So since June 1963, after completing a voter registration program in Charleston, South Carolina, Hamer and other Black Mississippians were arrested for sitting in a whites-only bus station in Winona, Mississippi. Now, at the Winona jailhouse, several women were brutally beaten, including Hamer, where she was left with a blood clot in her eye, kidney damage, and leg damage, now, which left her, with a limp. I will say this. She did account that story firsthand. She stated that they took her from the jail to a separate cell. Two men were in there. The first one beat her till he got tired, like they tied her down, or they laid her down and made her lay on her stomach, and she was beaten on her back and her legs until the first man got tired. Then the jailer required the second man to come in and beat her until he got tired. At one point, she started kicking her legs, and the jailer held down her legs as the man continued to beat her until they were tired all night long. So in 1964, Hamer helped organize Freedom Summer, where she brought hundreds of college students, Black and white, to help African Americans voter registration. And in 1964, she announced her candidacy for the Mississippi House of Representatives that was barred from the ballot. A year later, Ms. Hamer, Victoria Gray, and Annie Devine became the first Black women to stand in front of U.S. Congress when they unsuccessfully protested the Mississippi House election of 1964. And in 1964, Ms. Hamer co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, MFDP, which challenged the local Democratic Party's efforts to block Black participation. Hamer and her members went to the Democratic National Convention that year, arguing to be recognized as the official delegation. When Hamer spoke before the Credentials Committee, calling the mandatory integrations of the state delegations, President L.B. Johnson had televised a press conference, so she wouldn't get any airtime. This is a photograph of Ms. Hamer speaking at the convention, the National Convention, Democratic Convention, and in her, I will say, she did get aired. Later on, TV shows aired her speaking about her experiences trying to vote and being mistreated, and she got more airtime than what she would have if she would have spoke when Lyndon B. Johnson tried to block her. And I'm going to follow up with the part 2 because, yeah, she deserved it.